JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is a manga and anime series created by Hirohiko Araki. The Part 1 manga, Phantom Blood, was released in 1987 and the series is still ongoing today. 6 parts have been animated. 8 parts total exist in manga form and a 9th part is currently being written and released. I started watching the show in 2018 when the 5th part was being animated and I was 15 years old. I fell for the show immediately, of course. I loved it and I love it still. It is my absolute favorite of all time. When I fall for a piece of media like this, because there have been a few before JoJo, I like to imagine the characters struggling with similar things to what I struggle with. It helps me get through the things I'm doing and it just makes everything a bit easier. And JoJo did this for me like any other show would have. However, JoJo did this for a part of me that hasn't been unlocked by many characters or shows before. My trans identity. And I'm not alone in this, actually. In 2019, I found my way to the subreddit Trollest Crusaders. It is a subreddit dedicated to trans and JoJo things combined. Like, legit. It's for JoJo things that are also trans. I asked in the subreddit before making this video what people would like me to bring up, and a lot of people actually said that JoJo made them realize they were trans in one way or another. I even actually spoke to this person, I'll put their username right here, who wrote their college application essay on why JoJolion, the 8th part of the manga, is a trans allegory. So, as you can tell, I am not alone in seeing transness in JoJo. Why is this, though? Because JoJo is not canonically very trans. I think we have 2 canonical trans characters so far. Dragona Joestar from Part 9 has been airing for about a year, and they are a main ally to the main character. However, the other one is this character, a dude we see on one page of the manga in Part 6, who sole purpose is get misgendered. I would not recommend this show to you if you want canonical trans representation. I also wouldn't recommend it to you if you want morally good bisexual representation, because the 2 bisexual characters, Scarlet Valentine, the president's wife who gets seduced by a 14-year-old, and Dio, who isn't a good guy. However, evil bisexuals is not the topic of today, so let's drop that. I will divide this video up into 2 main talking points, starting with the first one. Oh, did you expect something like less unhinged to start? Yeah, no, welcome to JoJo. It's gonna be like this. The first human we see in all of the anime is a man impaled on a spike through the back of the head. Like among the first shots in the show, the first human face we see before anyone ever speaks. This sets the scene for the rest of the show, bizarrely and gratuitously gory. JoJo specializes in weird, gross body horror type gore, and that, I think, is the thing that plays into trans people's love of the show. Horror as a genre is an exploration of fears, and that sounds obvious, right? Like, it's horror. But what fear then does body horror explore? It might be less obvious than apocalypse movies or other genres, but it is horror all the same. The clue is right there in the name. It's body horror. It's horror related to the body. It's fear related to bodies. And what kind of fear depends on the particular work we're talking about. But I believe most of these movies, shows, whatever, can fall under the umbrella of the anxiety of having a body. This anxiety is very common and real for trans people. Our bodies might feel strange or even alien to ourselves, and are definitely a way for cisgender people to other us. The exploration of this fear, anxiety, might be strangely comforting. For this particular video, body horror is not a genre, it is a type of imagery seen in several genres. It's not gore, at least not just gore, it needs to be strange. And JoJo Gore is strange. An example I love bringing up in this is actually the villain Chocolada from Part 5. He's a former surgeon, meaning of course he can dismember himself, fill the blood vessels with mold from his stand and therefore not bleed out. This is perfect and exactly what I'm talking about. It's absolutely impossible, but it is weird and gross. Other examples of this might include Jolene's stand from part 6, Stone Free. She can unravel her body into string, and it is quite the disturbing image. Part 7 character Hot Pants has a stand named Cream Starter that can melt down and spray flesh. The rats in part 4 make JoJo's flesh melt. I could go on. Why does it feel so comforting? What is it about this viscera that can calm a troubled trans mind? I do have an idea about this. I think that the bizarre nature of the transformations characters go through can make real-life physical transformations and transitions feel less impossible, less daunting. There's a study, I will link it down below, that talks about how prepper and apocalypse horror movie fans were like more prepared for the pandemic of 2020 than people who don't watch that type of movie. And maybe body horror is much the same. Maybe seeing weird, strange transformations on screen make you more prepared to deal with the second puberty or surgeries. I mentioned a couple of stand powers earlier that are weird and creepy looking without actual harm involved. Cream Starter, for example, does not always harm enemies, and neither does Stone Free, but they both always look weird. Tonio from part 4 is a perfect example of this as well. His stand literally heals you, but it looks absolutely disgusting in the process. I think this is very comforting, at least to me, the fact that a transformation might look weird. It might look strange to, if not to you, then others. It might be absolutely difficult, but in the end, it's good. It's a good thing. However, not all trans people love gore, of course, and there are different things in JoJo that make it so appealing to us. If you know one thing about JoJo, it might very well be that a lot of characters dress strangely, they blur gender lines left and right. A couple of examples of this are Narancia from part 5, who is often mistaken as a girl by first-time viewers and readers. We have Foo Fighters from part 6, who is a colony of plankton living in a female body and in the English subtitles is referred to with they-them pronouns. Hot Pants, I mentioned their stand earlier, is a nun but disguises themselves as a man quite often. Hot Pants has, for the trans part of the JoJo fandom, become a bit like Link from Legend of Zelda. A lot of people agree that they are trans, but no one knows which way. As previously stated, I know 2 canonically trans characters in JoJo, however there is a third character worth mentioning here. It's Anasui. Anasui is a main ally featured in part 6, and he is undoubtedly a man, although very flamboyantly dressed. This in and of itself doesn't make him very interesting. There are a lot of characters like that in JoJo. However, there is a couple of panels in the manga that got changed in the anime that shows him like this. These are the same character. They are both Anasui, but one is clearly more feminine in body and presentation. There are massive discussions in the JoJo fandom about what this change is all about, and a lot of people disagree, but a lot of people do agree that this is enough evidence to call Anasui trans. I know there is a quote by Araki where he says he wanted to draw a character that, quote, went beyond the standard definition of genders, and thus Anasui was created. Of course, gender non-conforming characters will make trans people feel better whether the character is cis or trans. A cis man being allowed to be feminine means trans men are also allowed to be feminine. Trans characters also make me and other trans people feel seen and represented, which is very important when you feel othered by the world. The general non-interest in the gender expression of characters in the show itself is also very nice to see. It's cool to be able to escape to a reality where nobody will lecture a man in a dress and lipstick about his masculinity. Part 7 even has a male character going by the name Mrs. Robinson. No questions asked. There is so much you can mention on this topic, and I don't want to drag the video on for too long. Perhaps if interest exists, I can make videos discussing specific characters more in depth. And that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed my first attempt at a video essay, and I hope that if you feel like I missed something, mention it below. See you next time, bye bye.